takes a minute for people to get in. So if you ever do Facebook Lives, it takes a moment. So hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm so excited for another Saturday session, but I'm doing something totally new today. So no one's there yet, so I don't want to tell them about you guys. So one person is. And I'm trying something new today, which is I've invited my TikTok people in, and you can't see this, but right over here on my phone, there are some people watching in on this Facebook Live as well. And until someone gets it all together where we can go live on Facebook and live on YouTube and live on Twitter and Insta and TikTok, it's going to be just these kinds of hacks. So today it's going to be a short session as always, and I'm so excited for the TikTokers to be here because I feel like teachers who are on TikTok, they're like ahead of the game. And so we're going to be talking about that digital assessment. I'm going to wait just a minute and let people join. I can see people are going on Twitter, so that's really good. And we've quite a few of you here. So if you're in the Facebook group itself, there's a thing that says let StreamYard allow you to make comments. Do that because I would love to see any comments or questions that you have. Most of them come from the YouTube Live. Thanks, Stephanie. I have like a helper over here who I don't think I've met because it's only a basketball on the profile, but she's telling the people on TikTok that I'm doing a Facebook Live. So let's get started. So much fun to be doing it this way. And what we're going to be talking about today is rethinking digital assessments. And as I go around to schools and I work with teachers, this is the one thing where most teachers can get themselves in Google Classroom. They can start using something like Book Creator or Slides. But then when it comes to assessing, I find that they're not thinking about it differently, what they're doing. And I did this too. I totally did this. And I'm looking over at my TikTok person because I was talking to her about this before. But the first thing I did is go to Google Forms. And that was because I could take multiple choice questions and open-ended and put them in Google Forms. And it was like, ooh, I don't have to grade this. I could put the answer in. And that was great. But then I started to get really deep into pedagogy. And we're going to talk about that right now. I'm going to put this up on the screen. And you guys in my Facebook group have seen me talk about this before. But this is this idea that we now in 2021 need to be digital pedagogists. And this is really important wording to help you move teachers past just Google Classroom, let's say. And if you're a digital pedagogist, and I want to move so my TikTok phone people can see, but you understand the method and practice of teaching, which is what pedagogy is. And we're all good at that. But this takes it one step further, and it takes into account how the purposeful use of digital tools, we're picking them purposefully, can increase student engagement, empower student voice. And student voice is what's important to me in assessment. We'll talk about this today. And create more meaningful learning experiences. So we're going to think about the tools that we could use that allow us to get inside of kids' heads and know when they know something and know when they don't. And often picking from 4 answer choices doesn't do that for us because it's easy for a kid to pick from 4 answer choices. One of the great things about Google Forms is I can put in a hint or a right answer, or when they give me a wrong answer, go, no, you need to go back and rethink about that. That's nice. But I'm trying to go one step ahead, and I'm trying to instead have kids tell me about their learning journey. And that's what we're going to look at right now. But before we do, we really have to take a step back and look at the 3 types of assessment. Canadians learn this a lot more than Americans in the education system. And I'm going to move this a little bit so you can, it's not moving it well. Sorry. They learn this a little bit better than we do. And this is that there are 3 types of assessment. Now, we know that there are checks for understanding in America, and we know that there's the end assessment, the summative assessment. But really, it's a little bit more rich than that. And the 3 types of assessment that the Canadians, who happen to have the 4th best education system in the world, the three types they talk about are assessment for learning. And this is what we're going to focus on today. Assessment of learning and assessment as learning. And in America, we spend all of our time with assessment of learning. We want to ask questions. Did you understand the fall of Rome? Here are the questions. Pick them out. Okay, you got it right. That's assessment of learning. But if we want to be pedagogists, if we want to be masterful in what we're doing, we need to spend more time in assessment of and assessment as learning. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Assessment for and assessment as learning. So assessment for learning is this. I'm sitting down with you, we're having a conversation maybe about, well, I teach language arts, maybe about a paper that you're writing. And that is us having that conversation is I'm assessing where you are in the writing process, but this is for your learning so that you can go beyond. And we need to spend a little bit more time here. And the best place, in my opinion, to do that is, of course, no one's going to not know what I'm about to say right now, but that is Flipgrid. And I'm going to come over here and just show you an example. This is assessment. This is assessment kind of as learning, to be honest with you, and for probably a little bit. But this is assessment of prior knowledge that I got from a kid that we were going to start learning. And I was working with my Oklahoma school, and we were about to start learning about plant and animal cells. I don't teach science, but I'm a pedagogist. And so what I was doing is working with an amazing, like literally one of the best teachers I've ever seen. But I was helping tweak the pedagogy. I was in there to help with that. And she was so open to it. And so what we started with is this. We started with this assessment of prior knowledge. Oh, for some reason, I turned it down. Why would I do that?
Makes up everything around us. They can also be germs and viruses that are inside of us.
Go back.
I think cells are what makes up everything around us. They can also be germs and viruses that are inside of us. They're also there can be white blood cells, there can be blood cells, there can be photosynthesis cells.
Okay, we're going to stop because she starts getting into this idea of photosynthesis cells. So I'm already like, okay, girl needs help. But here's what's up. Let's compare that with a multiple choice question. I might say, what do you know about cells? Or I might pass out something. And if they're doing it text-based, she's going to write just a little bit. But because she has this opportunity to really talk about things that she knows, she starts going off. I start getting a little bit more information. She's never going to write photosynthesis cells on a piece of paper. She's not going to pick it on a Google form. But I'm letting her kind of go. And she's starting to tell me a lot of stuff. And pretty soon she's going to start talking about viruses because this happened in March and she's only hearing about viruses on the TV. But I'm getting a really good indicator of what she knows as we begin. And this is what's really important. Hello. Is that now I have an idea of what she knows at the beginning. And I'm going to grab assessments along the way. But at the end, I'm going to get that final of learning, okay? And I'm going to grade this process along the way. I'm going to grade where she started and where she ended. And that's individualized instruction. She's going to have a different path than another kid in the class, than another kid in the class. This is her path. Now, I didn't stop here, though. I had her go with another student, and with that other student, they got together and they said to each other, what do you know about cells? And they talked about it. Then they came back to Flipgrid and they re-recorded. And she's like, oh, yeah, I was talking to my partner and she reminded me or told me there are these things happening in cells. And so I was allowing this assessment as learning. I was assessing them to give me information about what they know. And they were learning in the process. And I had a starting point, and I was about to be getting an ending point when we were done. Along the way, we did Pear Deck for assessment. We did Book Creator for assessment. We did these really magical things where I could see all the time where she was in her learning journey. And I didn't need to, and I don't anymore, ask multiple choice questions. Now, caveat. I do ask when my school district requires that we've all got to take a test on, let's say, the Rome. I used to have to do that. I taught world history, and we had common assessments that we had to do at the end of each unit. So if they want me to do that, I'll jump through the hoops. I'll do it. but I'm not getting rich information from that. I'm doing that because my administrator doesn't know a lot about pedagogy in the 21st century. So I'll do it. But Holly Clark, who knows about pedagogy in the 21st century, is going to Flipgrid. Hi, Dalton. And Dalton just said this. Dalton has been around for a while. I want you to know, Dalton. Dalton is like on my. I'm showing TikTok, Dalton. Your comment, because I'm also live on TikTok, which you are on. So, but Dalton, Matt and I have been talking about you a lot. I just want you to know, we just love you. Anyway, Dalton says this new way of thinking has completely changed my teaching style. Through Flipgrid and other apps, I'm now able to figure out specific issues students are having, students probably are having on different things. Exactly. And when we just did multiple choice, it doesn't give us rich information about student learning and growth. I need to hear from every kid. One of my favorite things to do on Flipgrid as an assessment is something called a brain dump. Let's say I'm teaching 5th grade, which I've done, and I'm teaching the 13 colonies. Instead of asking multiple choice questions or even open-ended questions about the 13 colonies, what I want to do is have them brain dump everything you can remember. Get on Flipgrid, you've got a 2-minute time limit, and you've got to tell me everything you know about these colonies. And at first, they don't know anything. They're writing stuff down. They're thinking, think of the cognitive struggle that happens there and how amazing that is, because when you have cognitive struggle, it sticks. It becomes what my friend Lisa Highfill calls, and Lisa Highfill from the Hyperdocs, she calls that sticky learning. That's what I'm trying to get at. So like I was just saying to TikTok a minute ago, so like when I'm thinking of assessment, I'm not reading a book about how do I write a multiple choice question or what are the best multiple choice? Like, no, I'm reading Make It Stick. I'm reading Limitless Mind by Joe Buller. Right now I'm writing a course on digital assessments because I feel so strongly about it. These are the books that are sitting highlighted, rereading, read Limitless Mind. I'm on my 3rd go. And this book, The Power of Making Thinking Visible. Because if we make thinking visible, that's what we're doing. And Dalton knows this. We're trying to get at what do kids really know? And multiple choice questions just don't get us there. So if we come back over here to these 3 types, we want to stay away from the one that the American education system wants us to stay in, which is assessment for or of learning. And we want to be in that as and that for. And what that looks like is this. This is the teacher. Assessment for is like the facilitator asking questions, maybe checks for understanding. The assessment of, which is that one that we do here in the US too much, is to measure achievement against the curriculum, against stuff. But the assessment as learning is asking these guiding questions, like find connections in what other students did. Look for connections and patterns. And that's this book right here, Multidimensional Thinking. That's what we want to do. We want to get at multidimensional thinking when we're getting into assessment. Can you make patterns? Can you apply what you just learned and apply it to a new and novel situation? I talk about this a lot. In 4th grade, we have to do in California, the California missions. Well, now that you've learned about colonization of California, could you give someone who wants to go to Mars advice on what's the best things you need, or what's the most important things you need to think of before you settle Mars? And this, to some people, sounds like a project. No, my friends, this is an assessment. This is what it looks like. So the next thing that we want to see is this. And yeah, okay. Sorry, I was just making sure that you guys could see me on my Facebook. So traditional is multiple choice, written expression, and I'm going to try and move this for my TikTok people. Written expression, closed questions, fill in the blank, end of the unit questions. I think most of us are trying to at least move past that. But modern is like visualize this in something like Canva. Create something, open-ended questions. And I like open-ended questions for Padlet or Socratic. Or Of course, Flipgrid, always going to Flipgrid first. Add music, fine tone, do voiceover thinking, which is something that we're going to look at right before we end. Critical thinking, video, Minecraft. Yes, I love Minecraft, learning journals. It's what assessment needs to be instead of asking or answering multiple choice questions is assessment needs to be an opportunity to deeply assess understanding. And multiple choice questions don't do that. So that's why we're looking at something different. How can we do that? Let me just show you really quick before we end, because I try to keep these at 15 minutes. I never can. Someone help me. So I'm going to go back to Flipgrid really quickly. And I just want to show you what I would have a student do. Let's say that they are, and let me get this up. Let's say that they are learning about the respiratory system. And I like to use other subjects besides my own because it's really easy for me to talk about my own. But respiratory system's not mine. And I can come over here to board and I can choose whiteboard. And a kid could bring in a picture. And I should have had one ready. There's probably one somewhere around here. But I could take the respiratory system, place it right here. And I could be like, here's the respiratory system. And it looks weird because this way is pointing. It's weird with all these cameras. But here's the respiratory system. Here's everything I know. You see the lungs? The lungs are really important for oxygen and getting air to whatever. And then that air and oxygen goes to the heart. And the kid is telling me what they know instead of picking from a multiple choice answers. And anyone who's a good teacher hearing this knows like, oh yeah, that's probably way better. That's got to be way better. And they could also come here and solve a math problem. And they could choose a math problem and be writing, I'm choosing 2 + 2 because it's really easy. And I don't think my TikTok people can see that color. But then I record myself as I answer that math problem. I'm sure Dalton's doing that all the time. Another thing that we can do, and I'm going to just show one last example, is in Seesaw. I was working with a 5th grade teacher who had a worksheet, which was her form of assessment to see if the kids knew about right angles and obtuse and acute angles. And she had iPads, but she had made these worksheets. And I was like, I'm dying a little bit right now, but that's okay. I like got a smile on my face and I said, hey, can we take those kids and those right angles and can we walk outside and can they go find and make a picture, and I hope you guys can see that. Make a picture or take a picture of angles, identify them. So they've drawn on this little thing right here. I'm trying to help my TikTok people out a little bit more. And then they have to say, this is an obtuse angle. This particular one's obtuse. Here's what an obtuse angle is. They're going out. They're finding it. They're applying their learning. I want you to compare that, and I'm just doing this for Stephanie if she's still here. I want you to compare that with a multiple choice. And I'm not saying that you were using Google Forms only for multiple choice, but that's why I was a huge Google Forms person. I once said on stage when I was giving like a keynote, I don't know how I got up in the morning without Google Forms. Guess what? I don't use them anymore. I use them for surveys all the time with kids and parents. But for getting assessment, it's not in my thing anymore because of Flipgrid. So now I guess my new thing is I don't know how I got up in the morning before Flipgrid or before knowing that passionate teachers, and I'm going to pick on Dalton, are out there who are taking this stuff in and trying it because it does work. I've seen it in remote teaching these last 9 months. It's been incredible. So we're going to go a little deeper into this next time. Next week. I'm going to let you go because it's everybody's Saturday, but I just want you to chew on some of this. How can we get students to do these 3 things as we leave? How can we get students to make their thinking visible? Again, great ideas here, but he does them all offline. He does them on a like a big white piece of paper. I want to have a drink with him and tell him how much more powerful it could be if he tried it using Padlet or something. But my friend Trevor knows him really good, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't think that works." So I'm waiting for my drink with this guy. And if he thinks it doesn't work, I'm open. We want to make thinking visible. We want to hear from every student in our class, not just the ones who raise their hand. And we want to allow them to share their work with each other, to see each other's answers on Padlet, on Flipgrid, on whatever, so that they can learn from each other instead of only the teacher seeing the answers and them never seeing each other's. Because when they see each other's, and you guys have all heard this, but my TikTok people haven't, when they have their answer and they compare it as they see other kids' answers, they're going into a state of metacognition. And that is digital pedagogy. So anyway, happy Saturday, and I will see you all again next week. And thank you for, I'm gonna go back over to my TikTok for a second. And if you're a TikTok person, you could find us over here live. And you need to be on TikTok. It's really fun over there. Great teachers doing great things. Okay, so thanks everyone. And Twitter, bye, and YouTube, bye.